Hey guys, Stuart, Tomlinson, Warrior Collective, back once again with Inside Chat. I'm absolutely blown away to let you know who today's guest is. It is Invicta FC strawweight champion, Muay Thai champion, UFC Uber talent, and owner of probably one of the best social media accounts on Instagram, and it is Angela Overkill Hill. How are you, Angela?
Thanks. I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
I'm very good. And I know you're into cosplay, so I've kind of worn my Superman top today just for you. Hope you appreciate
Thank
the
you.
the
Appreciate
the little touch.
it.
I was kind of wondering, maybe you were going to come on kind of dressed in full gear, but I know it's 8 o'clock in the morning there, so I was probably asking a little bit much when you've probably not been long up. Um, but let's
Just a little bit. Just a little.
we can get straight back straight on it though. I mean, I know COVID's been a big thing for everyone, but it's been particularly chaotic with your opponents chopping and changing, and no doubt your fight camps and stuff like that. And how's training been going? Because I know you've got an upcoming fight, haven't you, on the 7th?
Yeah, training's been going pretty good. It's been a lot more focused on just me, and I think that's where a lot of people ended up gravitating towards when the pandemic first started and they were still trying to fight. A lot of people ended up just training on their own, training very specific things with a small group of people, and I honestly like it. It's like how everyone started realizing that they didn't need to go into an office for work. They could just like zoom in and get the same amount of work, if not more, done. I really felt like because where I am in my career, I have a lot of experience. I obviously know how to fight, but there's certain holes in my game that I'd like to shore up in the group class setting. We don't always cover those. So yeah, it's been going well. I've just been focused more on certain techniques I want to do, starting to get my takedowns and my grappling a little more offensive instead of just defensive for every fight. And working a lot more with my husband in our garage. We have like a really nice home home gym set up right now. We bought a house last year, and one of the main things I wanted to do with the house was build a gym in the garage just so we don't have to worry about like gyms closing or boarding up the windows or anything and making sure the cops aren't gonna come and shut us down. Like everyone was doing that out here when the shutdown happened. So now I don't have to worry about that. I can train at home if I need to, and we've been getting a lot of sessions in the garage, just learning new moves, learning new techniques. I watch your tutorials a lot on Warrior Collective, and there's a few accounts that I really like Damian Trainer and Liam Badco and all those guys. So yeah, we've just been grinding. Me and my husband and a small group of people. It's been going really well.
Yeah, I've noticed on obviously because like I just mentioned, I think you've got an awesome Instagram account, and it's like Instagram account goals. I wish I had as much fun on my Instagram as you know your personality and shines and the fact that you really love what you do. I've got to say, like, yours is one of the most fun Instagram accounts to follow because you can kind of
Thank
you
you.
can see obviously the high level of your training, but more important, you can see that you're having fun. You love what you do. You take it seriously, but you don't take it too seriously, and it's kudos to you. Like I wish I could run my social media as well as you do.
Ah, no, you're doing a great job. I'm trying to get up there with you.
Um,
I
so
do
I,
have like a.
sorry, go on. I'll
Oh,
interrupt
sorry.
you
Go
there.
ahead. Oh, I said I was gonna say I do have like a niche market. So like, I even though it's fun and it's funny and stuff, not everyone likes it. A lot of people just want to see butt photos and just want to see like you know, you punching people. I honestly feel like a lot of people just want to see butt photos. So I think I'd be a lot more popular if I just did that every day. Like, hey, look at my butt. But I really love just having fun. Oh, thank you.
Hey, you want the dog? Butcher, come here.
He can stay in here.
Okay.
Yeah. Butcher, lay down. Hey.
Oh, that's what I need. I need someone. I need someone bringing me silver service. It's like that's no fair.
I know. This is the only reason I got up at 8 is because I knew I'd get coffee brought to me on camera.
Yeah, so like I
But
said,
yeah,
following you on Instagram, I know that like you kind of you've been recently been training with Janet and Jackie. You know, I've had Janet on this podcast before, and
yeah.
she's an amazing human being and an amazing super talent. It must be brilliant to have great training partners around you like that. Then,
Yeah, they're just a quick drive up to LA. We live in San Diego, and when I knew I was fighting Tisha, I've had like a lot of my sparring partners are more just either good MMA fighters or good grapplers, but not really with like a good striking background. So I'm like, man, I need to make sure I'm still sharp, you know, because like that's my thing. And Tisha's coming in with her like karate style. So even though those guys don't do that type of style, is just like being aware of the head kicks. They hit fast, they hit hard. So being able to go up there and train with those women, they're just really sharp, really on point. And every now and then I get hit with a foot in the face, and I'm like, "Yep, keep this up." You know, it's definitely good. A good way to check on my skills, check on what we're doing in the garage if it's working, and then we were able to go back, fix some things, come back and have even better, higher quality sparring. So yeah, it was really useful, and they're all great, just like really great training partners, no egos, just excited to get good training in and work with people, and they're all safe and everything. So it was a really, I'm happy that I made that connection with those two, and their coach Brian Popejoy too is just like no ego there as well, just really chill, really just really dedicated to the sport, you can tell. So it was nice going up there and meeting him as well, and I'm looking forward to going up there a bunch more after this fight.
yeah, no, I mean I've not actually met Brian in person. He's on my list. You know, when I get back traveling, when
Yeah,
restrictions finally lift. I feel like I've been stuck in the UK for like way too long now, but he's on my list to visit when I'm back in the States. I mean, going from
nice.
that actually, kind of, I know you obviously you won your previous fight, but obviously the two fights before that you kind of lost on split decision. I know you were frustrated to some extent following that. How have you kind of taken that frustration and used it? I know you mentioned before about changing it up, but how have you changed your training up then, given what occurred in those fights?
Well, I think the main thing I started doing was trying to get to more positions where I can hit my opponent and they can't hit me back. And I think that's why judges score takedowns so much, so highly. Even if there's nothing being landed significant, just the fact that you're controlling someone and you're able to just like pop, 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 hit him and drive that strike count up, where it's talking about like punches landed, you're able to drive it way up when you're controlling a person. That's really what I've been focusing on. That's different from what I've been doing before. Is getting those to those positions on the fence, on the ground, where I can just control the person, hit them, and they have to either worry about defending my takedown or trying to get back up or trying not to let me pass to a better position. So I've really been focusing on that since the Watterson fight. And I feel real confident in it. I didn't really show it in the Yoda fight because I was having so much success on the feet, but even then, just even when I did fall over, I don't like to call it a takedown because I was kneeing her and she like grabbed my knee and then I fell over, so that was my bad. But even when I was on the ground, just striking, just trying to strike from anywhere and trying to land those points and make sure that, yeah, this takedown doesn't count because I'm doing more damage than you are. And that was a big change in my thought process, where before I go, oh no, I'm taken down, and then I freeze and I don't do anything. So like strikes, they get people to back off, then you have your space. So sometimes like just pushing isn't enough, sometimes you just got to hit them. And a lot of girls, when they take me down, because I'm so squirmy, all they do is hold. They just try to hold and make sure I don't go anywhere. Even in the Gadelia fight, in the first round, she took me down and she just held for dear life. And I think that's why she was so gassed in the second round. So knowing that they're gonna do that, just hit them while they're holding me. They'll let go, then I can start to get up, and then start working my own takedowns. So yeah, I really wish that I had that mindset in those two fights, instead of just falling into that striker role, being more MMA minded. And that's really what I've been trying to improve on, is just being more MMA focused, going for takedowns, mixing it up. And I'm never gonna be a Khabib, I'm never gonna be a Tatiana Suarez, but just giving those threats are gonna open up more strikes for me. They're gonna open up more opportunities. I do have submissions that I've tapped people with in training, and those opportunities are gonna present themselves too, the more that I go for it. So just being a little more open minded in my fighting.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, there's two things there, isn't there? It's like, I know you come from a Muay Thai background, and the scoring system of Muay Thai confuses outsiders, doesn't it, sometimes? And some fighters use it
Mm,
completely to their advantage. And MMA, because the
mm-hmm.
point system is so different, and obviously judges interpret it slightly differently sometimes, and we can talk about bad judges, but you just, personal interpretation, must be frustrating getting those split decisions, given how you felt significant strikes. On the previous one to that, there was many people that thought you took it. I don't want to say there's nothing worse, but it is a frustrating way to have the fight go the other way. And they always say don't leave it to the judges, but in mixed martial arts, it's
Mm-hmm.
not so easy to achieve that. But obviously, working on being more proactive in your wrestling is obviously the way forward. So who have you been? I know you mentioned you've been training a lot at home, but who have you been training with? Have you been training with someone specifically on that area, or has it just been with the regular coaches that you have?
I've been working a lot more with Justin Flores. He used to coach Ronda Rousey back in her heyday, in MMA, and just he's a really good wrestling slash judo coach for MMA. Like everything that we do is geared towards like wall work on the fence, takedowns, defending hip throws. And I first started going back to him. He taught a couple times at Alliance MMA, but I first started going back to him when I got booked to fight Michelle Watterson, because I know she does that hip throw, that head and arm throw that all the girls like to do. So I'm like, man, I really want to make sure that doesn't happen to me, because anytime it happens to another girl on TV, I'm like, only girls get thrown by that. So I'm like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be the one that gets laughed at. So I went there and worked that specifically, and then I started getting the urge to be offensive with it, to start throwing those hip throws, because hey, why it works so well for other people, why shouldn't I try it myself? So we started working on that stuff, started working on just transitioning from takedown to getting on top in a good position, not just landing in guard. And I really like the way that he taught. I feel like it's very specific, and because he's been in judo his entire life, he understands how to teach people to where it'll stick, as opposed to just teaching one thing and then next time you see him he's teaching another thing, and next time you see him you're like, you forgot the thing that he taught 2 weeks ago. So it's really helped me out. He's been a really great coach for that. And it's fun to learn from someone where suddenly you feel like a young sponge again. And a lot of times, with grappling coaches, I don't feel that. Like if you teach me a cool new punch or cool new kick, I'm like, oh yeah, and I take it and I work on it on the bag and I shadow box with it, and it's really fun for me. But a lot of times, because I'm so like striking minded, I'll learn something in grappling and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I'll either be too afraid to try it out because it didn't work the first time I tried it out in sparring, or I just won't be interested in getting it really good. So with him, I'll learn something and I'll really like it, and then I'll go and I'll roll somewhere, or I'll go, train at a jiu-jitsu place, and I'll try that stuff and it works, and I'm like, wow, okay, I got something here. Like, for some reason we vibe. His style of teaching works for me, and I'm really excited. It's been almost a year since I started training with him, so I'm excited to see it finally come out in the fight, because a lot of times you learn something new, you'll be working on it for years, and then it won't come out in the fight until, like, 2 or 3 years after you learned it. So I'm excited for that to start showing itself in my fights, and just impressing people with my evolution.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you mentioned, that it's really important to connect with a coach as well as for them to have a
Hmm.
system. It's kind of like the more experienced you are, the more of a kind of tick list there has to be for it to work for you, doesn't there? When you start out, you don't really need a big tick list because you're not anywhere. Whereas when you're at your point, you know what you need, you know the sort of methods that work for you. But you, like you said, you also need to learn and grow. It can be a difficult tick list to tick off, can't it? I mean, like I said, I've been all over the world visiting coaches, so I know exactly what it's like to kind of see that in action with different people. But I mean, obviously going forward into this fight, then. I mean, I'm going to go back to your Instagram account here as well. Is one of my favorite videos on yours is like the Mystic Angie. You know, it's definitely one of the best videos I've seen recently. Apart from your own fight, then, Mr. Kanji, who are you picking for this main card that you're on? Then, who do you think is who should I bet the house on then?
Man, I would have said Nunes, but she just
Yeah,
got
I
COVID.
know, I
Yeah,
know.
COVID. No, they're taking out all the best fights. Um, Man, it's hard to say because the heavyweight fights, I never suggest anyone bets on heavyweight fights. They're so unpredictable. But if you're feeling crazy, you could bet on Derek Lewis because he always finds a way. Like, I think it's insane, his ability to find a way to knock someone out that he probably shouldn't, or he's a huge underdog against, is insane. So I mean, I would bet a little bit of money on Derek Lewis. I need to look at the card. I kind of blocked the card out of my head because I've just been like, focus on relaxing, focus on not getting too anxious. Let me see who else is on there. I know Jose Aldo is
Yes,
fighting.
Jose Aldo. Who's his opponent actually?
He's one of my
Oh,
favorite
he's fighting
favorite.
Munoz, isn't he? Pedro Munoz.
What's that?
He's fighting Pedro Munoz, isn't he?
Oh yeah. See, that's another one you can't bet on that fight. Like, that's an insane. There's so many good fights on the card. I think that's why I blocked it out.
Leave that then. Don't worry about it. It's just me kind of like wanting to make some money off your insider knowledge, but obviously you'll have to pick
I say Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis. Bet
Derek
some
Lewis.
money on
If
him.
so, if you listen to
He's
this or
gonna
watch
be.
this,
He should be the underdog because Cyril Gaines undefeated.
yeah,
So if Derek Lewis is the underdog, bet money on him.
yeah. If you get good odds, there we go. There's the tip for today. So obviously you've been competing and training for a long time, and you know, like I said, you come from a striking background. Now, I'm guessing like some people will have watched, you know, the videos that you've put out with UFC or maybe Joe Rogan, but just for anyone who's maybe not had that pleasure, when did you get started in the martial arts world? Then how did you get started?
Well, it's kind of a lame story. I had just gotten married, and me and my husband were just like getting fat and playing video games and eating pizza. And we both had jobs where we sat down all day. I was working at an animation studio, he was working at an art gallery. So we just started getting a little chubby, and we tried a bunch of different like workouts. Like I tried biking to work instead of just riding a subway. That was dangerous. I do not suggest that in New York City. Um, anytime I tried like a gym class, I would just get bored with it. But MMA, or well, I started with Muay Thai, and my first coach is actually Australian, which made it more fun because Americans, we hear an accent and we're like, "Ooh, that's fun. Let's hang out with that guy." So yeah, that definitely helped. And my coach was just like really fun, really energetic, always with the potty humor and silly jokes, and it just made it really interesting for me. And the first time I threw an elbow in Muay Thai class, I was just like, whoa, because my arms didn't look like this back then. They look more like, more like my finger than my bicep right now. So I was like, man, this skinny little arm can create so much, like generate so much power. That's insane. And I just felt like a little more confident in my own skin because like I was probably like 115 pounds back then, like just walking around, skinny and in like New York City where there's a lot of like craziness, a lot of like strong personalities in every workplace. And I don't know, I was just always a very shy person, and people are always like, "You shy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it happens. Like you can grow out of it." But I was always very shy and very in just learning how to fight. Basically, made me less shy, made me more open to like speaking my mind and just being more like myself around strangers. And I think it's great for anyone to just learn some kind of martial art because um just having that in your back pocket like it lets you walk into a room like a little bit taller. You just feel more comfortable. You understand how your body moves. You feel like if things get crazy, you'll know how to slip away. So it's definitely a skill that I always tell people, like it doesn't matter what martial art it is, just go and learn something, and just have that experience where you don't have to be afraid anymore of like confrontation. So I started doing that with my husband, and we just fell in love with it. We were going like 3 times a week, and then we ended up going like every day. And then I say about like 9 months in, my coach asked me if I ever felt like I'd have a fight or if I wanted to. Actually, no, he was like, "There's a tournament down in Virginia. You want to do it?" And I'm like, sure. If you think I can, like, if you think I'm ready. He's like, "Well, we'll find out." So that was like him in a nutshell. So we go down to Virginia and I fight in this tournament, and I ended up beating two girls that were way more experienced than me, and I just realized that I had a knack for it. So kept going. I had 16 Muay Thai fights and won all of them. And then around the time that I went pro in Muay Thai, they had just announced that they were going to have a Ultimate Fighter for strawweights, which was 5 pounds heavier than my weight class. I did 110 and that's 115. So I was like, hey, let's do it. So I showed up just trying to make connections, like be seen by Dana White hitting pads, and that ended up being enough to get on the show. So yeah, that's kind of my background.
So which gym was it? Was it Evolution that you started at in New York?
Yes, Evolution Muay Thai in New York.
Well, when I was in New York,
Yeah.
pre-COVID, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go and check out Evolution, and I never ended up going. But I hear good things about that gym.
No, it's a great gym, and I always, even now, I'll see people and I'll see the way they throw a punch or I'll see the way they throw a kick, and I'm like, man, who taught you how to throw that? Like, I feel like I feel like it's so important to have good fundamentals, even when you start breaking the rules. Like I break so many rules now with my style with MMA because like I'm dropping my hands all the time. I throw a punch like that, like trying to generate power. But you have to understand the fundamentals before you can break those rules. So I always encourage people to get with like, even though they'll probably never do it professionally, I'm like, still get with someone who's going to teach you how to do it right, because you don't want to have to unlearn something. It's always easier to come in as a blank slate and then learn something and do it well, as opposed to like unlearning bad technique. So yeah, he definitely helped me out a lot in my career, even still, just because I still have those fundamentals. Everyone thinks that they can counter me when I throw my overhand, because that's the thing that I land on everyone. But whenever they try to counter me, the hand will be up. I don't know why. I don't know how. Like I don't think about it, but it's just there. So little stuff like that, that'll keep you from getting knocked out once you start fighting really good people. So yeah, thanks, Brandon.
And you cut your teeth on Friday Night Fights, didn't you? Which was something I'd not known about until I got to New York, and that's like
Ah,
a local fight event, isn't it?
yeah.
There's quite a few people who've cut the teeth on that. It's like a local. I don't want to say it's not smoker fights, is it? It's kind of like a local event series. It's just New York based, is it?
Yeah, it's just New York. A lot of Canadian fighters come down. A lot of fighters on the East Coast will come to this show and basically, yeah, cut their teeth. And I like that phrase. Um, but it's such a good experience because you're fighting in front of crowds. So a lot of people, when they don't have professional fights yet, they're fighting in gymnasiums, basketball courts at a school. They're not really fighting in front of people. There's no lights, there's no cameras, there's no announcer. So all that stuff can throw you off when you're a young fighter. You haven't done it that much. You don't have that much experience. You can get nervous. Like I've seen people freak out backstage at Friday Night Fights because they're like having anxiety about just performance anxiety. So that's a real thing. Like the fear of the bright lights, that's a real thing. And I feel like Friday Night Fights prepared me for that, when because my first MMA fight, I didn't really feel that pressure. Like it felt like just another Muay Thai fight. Felt like the same thing that I've been doing. Very familiar feeling. And even I think my biggest audience before I got cut in the UFC, my biggest audience was Mexico City the first time I fought Tisha Torres. And even then, full arena, probably biggest arena I've ever fought in, walk into the cage, I didn't really feel the jitters from all these people watching me, because I had already done that on a much much smaller scale. But it's like dress rehearsal. It definitely prepares you for all of those nerves, and just being able to focus through it and get that tunnel vision and walk to your opponent and be like, okay, it's just me and you. None of this other stuff matters. We're fighting now. So yeah, it was really cool. And I think the first time I fought on Friday Night Fights, I did get distracted by it. I was winning. It was my third fight, and I was winning the first round, and I was just like, "Yeah, won the first round." And I hear my whole gym was there. All of Evolution Muay Thai was there, and they're going, "Angie, Angie, Angie," and I'm like sitting there, and Brandon, my coach, is giving me instructions. He's like, "Ugh," and that's all I heard, because I'm just like, Angie, Angie in my head, and he's like, all right, you ready? And I'm like, oh shit, what are we doing? And I lost the second round. So, so the next time I sat down and he told me stuff, I listened. So that was a good lesson to learn. Like, don't get distracted in between rounds. Listen to what your corner is telling you, because they're making adjustments, so you need to too. And third round went better, and I won that fight. But yeah, it was a good lesson to learn early in my career.
I just have pictures in my head now of you kind of strutting out your corner, like going, and gee, to yourself like that now. That's all I'm going to picture.
Yeah.
And You know, that's all I can picture now.
And
Is
then
like you.
getting beat up.
That's it. You just dancing. Oh, you just keep singing my name. But obviously you went from there and you went to Invicta, and obviously and it really it's the process of the getting cut from the Ultimate Fighter to find yourself back in the UFC. That I mean, not many people do that, do they? I mean, I know people myself personally in the UK who've never been able to achieve that, and they've been good. And don't get me wrong. And I thought, well, they'll make the way back, and they never did. I mean, how did you feel when you got cut then? Because I mean, again, no one likes to get cut. You do kind of think, oh, this is the end. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
stacking shelves in the local shop. This isn't for me. I mean, not you, of course. You're a talented lady who would have been working for Pixar by the sounds of it, but someone else would be like, oh, I'm going to be in the shop. So how did you feel at that point then when you got cut from the after the Ultimate Fighter?
It was a really hard time for me because I had just made the decision to move to San Diego to get better training partners, better coaches. And my first fight with Alliance MMA was against Rose Namajunas, and that I got submitted in the first round. So I was just like, fuck. Like, was this a horrible decision? Like, why did this happen? Like, I've been training so hard. I felt like I did everything right. um but it just wasn't my time to beat a fighter like that. Like, I didn't have the experience yet, I didn't have the mat time yet. And I think I tried like a new move too that I had just learned, and I didn't realize that you do that move. It was like putting two hands on the hand and then start working your way up. But then I let go of the hand too soon and she took my back. So that was like, they told me not to do that, but I forgot that part. So it was like a weird kind of feeling where I'm like, man, if I didn't come here, I would have won that fight. And that's what I felt like at the time. I don't feel that way now, but at the time you're just trying to make sense of why this was my second loss in a row, and I'm just trying to make sense of like why I haven't done what I thought I'd be able to do. I felt like I'd be able to knock everyone out, and it isn't happening. It hasn't happened yet. So it was a really hard time for me, and I just kind of threw myself into my training to cope. Like, just got back to sparring. That Saturday after, or that week after the fight, I went back to sparring because I wasn't hurt or anything. I just got my ego bruised a bit, and I just like had a war with one of my favorite training partners, Christine Stanley, and we just went at it. And she like understood that I needed to get that aggression out, so she's a good trooper for that. Like, we would always she'd always be like the type of person who's like, oh, you threw the first hard punch, so I started throwing hard punches. And I'm like, no, you threw this first hard punch. But yeah, that helped, just throwing yourself into training, and trying to focus on the holes in your game, which was obviously grappling at the time. Like, I got out grappled by Tisha, and then I got submitted by Rose. So it's like, these are the things that I need to work on if I want to be competitive in the UFC. So I threw myself into that, and Invicta called really quickly. So that was definitely a sign of hope. The fact that they called so quickly, that I was able to get a fight booked so quickly outside of the UFC. So I'm like, okay, people don't think I'm crap. Like, they see my potential. I just have to keep working and keep getting better. And I mean, going on that win streak in Invicta definitely helped my confidence a lot. I'm like, okay, okay. Like, I know what I'm doing now. I have more experience now. And I'm learning faster than a lot of these other girls. I felt like I was learning faster than a lot of girls who were in the UFC, who weren't fighting as often, who just had plateaued already, and they're just in the UFC to make a quick buck. So that was definitely a good confidence boost, being able to win four fights, be able to win the belt, being able to get knockouts. People thought I was all talk and that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna knock everyone out, and then it never happened. I was able to get some knockouts in Invicta, and it just everything was coming together. So when I got the call to fight Andrade, I was like, yeah, we did it. It definitely was a good feeling getting back in there, because at the time, like, meeting all these people at Alliance who had been in the UFC and gotten cut as well. Some guys had like really crazy stories where one of my teammates, he didn't realize he was cut until he tried to watch a fight on Fight Pass, and his subscription wasn't working. So he called them up and he's like, "Hey, my subscription isn't working." And they're like, "Oh, you're no longer on the fighter list for
Uh,
for free subscriptions." So I was just like, "Well, at least I got a phone call." So so that's something to be thankful for. But yeah, it was really hard, but I never lost faith in the fact that I had talent and that I was just playing the catch up game, and eventually I would be able to beat those girls that I lost to.
yeah, I mean, another thing is, one thing you can't say is you don't graft. You're a worker. You know what I mean? You don't avoid fights. You kind of, oh, just give me some more fights. Is it still? I mean, I don't know if that record is it still that record standing of the most fights in least consecutive time for you. Is that still a record in the UFC?
I think I tied someone. I think I tied Cowboy
I was gonna
Cerrone.
say he would be the other
Like,
one who would be possibly ever taken that
yeah.
record, if anyone. But yeah, you're not
Yeah.
afraid of jumping in and taking fights, are you? I'm guessing you must stay in shape all year round and keep active for that reason.
Yeah, it's not often I'm not training at least a few times a week. And I just love learning. I love the sport, so it's not a chore for me. And I think a lot of fighters who end up fighting too long, they have that same energy where they just enjoy the sport so much. They love going in and smashing people and getting smashed back and then smashing those people back. It's just that volley, that chess match. It's really fun and you get addicted to it. So I'm definitely addicted to the sport, addicted to like learning and improving and getting better. Um, and I think it shows in my conditioning. It shows in the fact that I could show up on like 5 days notice and still outpace the girl that I'm fighting. Yeah, I just enjoy it a lot. I like getting in fights. And I think I've always been a little self conscious about the fact that I started so late. Like I picked up Muay Thai. I went to my first Muay Thai class when I was 24, and I called it my quarter life crisis because I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn Muay Thai. Oh, I'm gonna like start playing the drums. Oh, I'm gonna do this and that because I was bored. I was working in this animation studio and I was just bored. I was out of school and didn't really have anything to do. So I just became addicted to that. And yeah, I've always been a little self-conscious of the fact that I started when I was 24 as opposed to all my peers who started when they were 8, like 8 or 16 or something like that. I'm like, damn, like they've been doing it so much longer than me. How am I gonna ever catch up? So I feel like I always have that in the back of my head, like gotta go to training, gotta keep working because I gotta catch up to all these people that I want to beat. And I think it works out for me. It's definitely good motivation. I feel like I've always been a fast learner with everything that I've done. And this is no different. I just need to find the right group of people, just need to find the right training partners that are going to push me to that next level. And the right coaches help as well that are going to keep adding new little wrinkles to my game. And just finding that it has made it so fun for me, and it never really feels like a chore like going in. Even well, sometimes it does, but then once I go in, I'm like, man, that felt good, So it's like one of those things. I always know I'm gonna be happy I did it after I do it.
I mean, it's quite inspiring to hear that you started at that age for people. And actually, funnily enough, I was speaking to Brad Pickett not long ago, and he started at
Mm.
25, and it's kind of like,
Okay.
and he felt, you know, he said some very similar things to you about, you know, playing catch up. And you know, it's funny as a coach. You know, I mean, I obviously, you know, I've coached others, and some people come to you later in life and they go, "Ah, it's not really worth me starting at this point. I'm not going to be any good at it." And I'm like, I said, "You're looking at it the wrong way." I said, "There's an advantage in starting young in that you've got more time, haven't you? But as you start old, you know what you want. You've got that motivation, you've got that work
Mm.
ethic that you can put into it." And again, you know, no one would expect someone, you know, on paper at 24, 25 to achieve, you know, what you've achieved in multiple disciplines, you know, and still be evolving and still be, you know, getting better. You know, it's yeah, for people out there, it's going to be, oh wow, I would not. And also for me, when I look at you technically, you know, I'd like to think I'm a pretty good eye for technical striking, especially given my background and how much I travel. I would never have guessed that. You know, you're very relaxed, very fluid, really good technically. And I'm like, yeah, I would not have guessed that at all. I was like, you've got some clean skills, and like I said, it's funny to hear you say that you started at that point, and you know you're working to kind of make that difference up with what you feel is the time that you'd lost when you were younger. Well, actually, I would never have noticed, and I'm guessing that's gotten less for you as you've moved away and you've got further up, you know, into your career.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like a veteran where, where like even when I got cut from the UFC and I was in Invicta, they would announce me as a UFC veteran. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. I just got in here. So now I definitely feel that veteranness where a lot of matchups they can't make because the person is too green for me to fight. Um, and uh, and I'm like, well, I'm sure they wouldn't mind fighting me. You know, let me get some more knockouts on my record. But yeah, I'm getting to that point where more more of the girls on the roster in the UFC have either less fights than me or have just not been fighting at this level as long as I have. And that's a big difference. Like fighting at a UFC level is a huge difference from fighting in the regional circuit. Like people not people that I care about, but you know, trolls, they'll like to make fun of my record, but I'm undefeated outside of the UFC. I've never lost a fight outside of the UFC. So people see my record and it doesn't really tell the full story because I've been in the UFC since my second fight, my second pro MMA fight. So it's kind of like it's yeah, I've always had eyes on me and it's a totally different level. Like when people get cut, like we were talking about, when people get cut after a couple of fights, after a couple losses, I mean, I honestly feel like if they work hard enough, they can get back in because a lot of times the UFC sees, oh, you're a little too green for this right now. Like you kind of have to be, when you get signed to the UFC, you have to be ready to fight the champion. Like no matter how many fights you have in the UFC, like once you sign that contract, you're basically signing the contract saying, "Hey, if there's a title fight, I can win it," you know? And that's something that people don't really realize all the time. A lot of people think that they can learn on the job, and that's kind of what I was doing my first stint in the UFC. I was learning on the job and just every time something weird would happen, we're like, "Whoop, gotta fix that," you know? But it's a really hard platform to learn on. If I feel like if I didn't get cut, I'd have a lot more losses against people that I could have beat if I just went back and took a step back and just learned a little bit more and then came in there. So I feel like I'm a much different fighter every year, and I always encourage people who are outside of the UFC, like, dude, just fight as many times as you can, as often as you can, because this is the experience. This is basically amateurs. Like, you're a pro fighter, but outside of the UFC, that's your amateur career. Nobody's gonna look at that if you go into the UFC and knock out 9 people. You know, like nobody's gonna care what your outside of the UFC record is. So just having that that Invicta experience really helped, because I was able to figure out what type of fighter I was. I was be able to get more fluid, get more loose, work on my footwork, work on my takedown defense, and just come into my own. And yeah, being in the UFC is really hard just because everyone there is making good money, so everyone there is training full time, and everyone there is fighting as hard as they possibly can because they know this is their chance. Like this is their chance to make it. So it's a really it's a pressure cooker, and you got to be ready for that.
So, I mean, I agree completely with everything you've just said. And actually, sometimes I've seen, people get the opportunity, and wise people have turned it down so that they can develop before. Because a lot of people will think, oh, I only get one shot at the UFC. Because notoriously, not everyone gets, everyone does what you've done and get re-signed. A lot of people think I've got one go, get signed. If I blow it, I might not get signed again. So it's that. Like you just said,
Yeah.
you got to prepare in advance, and if you're not ready, maybe you got to make that decision whether you kind of take the chance to say no and hopefully get it again at another point, or take that risk and try and evolve like you did,
Yeah.
while you're on the job, as you said. So, but going forward, then for you, I'm guessing the UFC title is the. I know you shouldn't look past your next opponent, but there's got to be a goal, hasn't there? I'm guessing that's the goal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's the goal more so now than maybe a few years ago because I was actually starting to lose hope. Like I was starting to think that I'd never fight for the title. And and I almost feel like that freed me a bit. I had two losses, and who did I just lost to Randa Marcos, and I was like, man, like that's it, that's the nail in the coffin, like they're gonna cut me again, it's over for me. And then I got the opportunity to fight again short notice against Jody Escobar, and I was like, all right, well, if I'm going out with a bang. And it ended up being my best performance up to that date. Like I just was able to style on her. I threw a bunch of jump knees. I just was loose out there. And after that, and we had done a lot of like we looked a lot at the mental side of it too because I was really nervous going into the Randa fight. I put a lot more weight on that fight than I should have. So after that fight, we started looking at the mental side and just what was holding me back, what things were stopping me from performing as well as I do in the gym. And the short notice fight was like the perfect thing to test that those theories against, test the mental training, like test like all the visualization drills that we have been doing, just test all the breathing exercises. Just there were a lot of things that we started doing that I hadn't done until that fight, and I really felt like it helped me a lot. And I think visualization is a huge thing that I had heard about, but I thought it was corny, so I didn't do it. And once I started doing it just eases your nerves and it makes you focus on what you actually want to do to this person when you go in there. So it's like a drill to get past that performance anxiety, and a drill to get you into that flow state faster in your fight, as opposed to like overthinking every moment. And like in the Randa fight, there were like key moments that even though it was a short fight, there were key moments where I felt myself thinking, and then I hesitated because I was like, what do I do now? What if I do this thing? What if she counters it? And then she starts going, and then the fight was over in a matter of seconds. So just getting yourself out of your head is the best way to perform, that the way that you can possibly, like the best way that you possibly can. Just getting out of your head and being in that flow state, and is something that a lot of athletes uh, try to reach when they're on that performance day, because like when you're training, you're not thinking about anything, you're just training. But when there's the weight of like, this is the day where everything you've done actually matters, and all the wins that you've had in training don't matter, this matters, like that can put just like a lot of stress on you. And like we see like with the Simone Biles thing, like there's so much that goes into that mental preparation, into like your brain can lose every fight for you. You know, you could be the best athlete in the world and your brain can just be like, nope, we're losing this one, you know? So focusing on that really allowed me to excel forward. And I feel like since then I haven't really lost a fight. Like I've lost fights, but but since then I've always performed to the best of my ability, and I felt rejuvenated after that. I was like, you know what, I am gonna be champion, and I am gonna beat all these girls, and I am gonna knock people out. And it made such a difference in the way I approached things. And my nerves were more settled on fight day. And yeah, all that really helped. I forgot the question you asked, but
Oh no,
I
no,
think I
it's
answered it.
yeah. Well, funnily enough, actually the last podcast that I did before I had the pleasure of having you on was with a Buddhist priest, and we were talking about
Oh.
meditation, mindfulness, and I was talking about Buddhism in martial arts, and obviously, so a lot of
Mhm.
what you just said is actually really quite connected to what I was just saying. Then, so what was this particular what's this particular routine that you do that helped? Then was it long winded, or was it just a literal? How can you describe it to us?
One thing is when you start to get closer to the fight, every now and then your heart rate will spike, and that just stresses your entire body out. It can mess up your sleep patterns, your sleep cycle. So just learning how to breathe through it, and trying to meditate. I don't meditate too often now, but I was doing it a lot when I first started like looking into mindfulness and everything. But just breathing through it, like in for 7, hold for 6, and then out for 7, or something like that. But just basically just breathing in, holding, and then releasing, getting your heart rate down. That's a big part of it. Focusing on your breathing so that your mind isn't flitting all over the place. That's a huge part. And then focusing on the sounds that you hear, focusing on um, what you feel, the seat that you're sitting on, like what your feet feel like what your body feels like. Stuff like that just takes you out of this like constant cycle of like, oh my God, my fight's coming up, my fight's coming up. What this happens? What that happens? What blah blah blah. And it just like centers you and makes you just relax. So that really helped. But then also visualizing fight day. So it's not just like thinking about, oh, what I'm gonna punch her with. It's visualizing like the ride to the arena, and then going into your workout room and getting your hands wrapped, and all the feelings that you feel while these things are happening. And for me, like before I started doing that, the waiting process is the worst part of fight day. You know, like it's the worst part of fight camp, is just waiting for this thing to finally happen. And you don't feel it during training because you're occupying your brain with stuff. You're like learning a technique, or trying to win like a grappling session, or trying to like punch someone in the face. But as soon as you're out of that, you're like, oh shit, it's about to happen. But visualizing all the like come up to the fight really helped me with dealing with those nerves, because like your heart rate does spike while you visualize. Like it almost feels like fight day, but you're familiarizing yourself with these feelings, and then they become less scary. So it's not like just this one traumatic thing that happened to you and it never happened again, but you're always afraid of it. You're like constantly facing that beast, like constantly like looking at like the monster under the bed and realizing, oh, there's nothing there. It's just a feeling. It's just your brain reacting to stimulus, and it's nothing more than that. So like going through like the ride to the arena, going through getting your hands wrapped, like visualizing the warm up, getting your breath back, even though you feel like a little more tired than you usually do because you just cut weight and your anxiety is through the roof because you're about to fight, getting that breathing back down, understanding that, and then like visualizing them calling your name. Angela, it's your time. You like, my husband slaps me. I start getting wrapped up. We walk out. Like, you're thinking about all this, and then the fight starts. And then you're visualizing what you're doing in the fight, and you don't just think about the good things that you want to do. You also think about the things that scare you, like, oh, I got taken down. This is a thing that always like makes me go ooh, whenever I think about it. But the fact that I'm visualizing it makes it less scary when it actually happens. So just going through all these things, all these moments that will likely happen in the fight, but also making it a positive experience where you come out on top, you do what you want to do, and you win the fight. That's like the whole process. And then I visualize my hands being raised, and then I can stop. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm out of this simulation, and now I can just kind of relax and enjoy the rest of my day. So that really helps me with my nerves, because the more you do it and the higher the platform and the more people expect from you, the worse the nerves get. And I always feel for like undefeated fighters, because I know they're probably the most anxious, the most nervous of any fighters on the roster. And yeah, if you're going in there with a few losses and you're fighting someone undefeated, just know they're freaking out back there. So you can take advantage of that. But yeah, it's really helped me a lot, just visualizing that moment, and then on fight day it's a lot less scary.
And I still visualize you with headphones on, listening to that sound of the group of people going Angie, Angie. You just listen to
Yeah.
that over and over, and that's just going to be part of your routine for fighting now.
Yeah.
So as obviously you're like one of the highest level female role models in the UFC. For a young female fighter, student athlete, wanting, aspiring to, be a fighter in the UFC, what would be your advice to them, given the fact that you are a UFC veteran now?
Well, from this UFC vet, I would say just focus on the things that you really like to do. But don't forget about the stuff that is annoying. So if you really want to be an MMA fighter and you really love striking, don't stop striking just to do other stuff. Like, still focus on that and make that your bread and butter, and make that the thing that no one can touch you with. But also make sure you're paying your dues to like your grappling, and paying your dues to your wrestling. Make sure that you're still well rounded. And that's one thing that I wish I was more into, was like competing in grappling. If you're young enough, like compete in as many wrestling tournaments as you can, because those are the experiences that you can't really get when you're older. Wrestling competition, being on a wrestling team, learning, just drilling that over and over again. I think that would be my biggest thing. Is just like, if you're high school age, get into wrestling right now and learn that, because you're not going to be able to find it once you're like past 21. You're not going to be able to find like a group to wrestle with. On top of that, compete as often as you can as an amateur. Compete in Muay Thai, compete in grappling tournaments, compete in wrestling matches, or whatever else you do, boxing matches or whatnot. Compete as much as you can as an amateur. Look at boxers, like they have extensive amateur records before they go pro, because those records don't really matter. It's just getting that experience in, and the more you step in there into that competition like state of mind where the other person isn't going light, the other person isn't just working, they're like actually trying to like kill you. And that happens in wrestling and jiu-jitsu, whatever, like whatever the art is, they're trying to kill you in there. So feeling that pressure, feeling the pressure when you walk onto the mats, and then just trying to perform the best you can, that experience is like priceless. You if you can get as much as that in as you can, that you're gonna go pro and you're gonna be untouchable because you've just been there so many times. So yeah, that's really my advice. And if you're already pro, just keep working on your craft and make sure you have someone who will push you in every different field, but also you can like get one off on them every now and then. So you need like a bunch of different levels. You need like someone you can kind of beat up, someone who like you're at the same level with and you're pushing each other, and then someone who's like at that level you want to be at, and you can always like pick their brain and ask for advice, and they can style on you a bit and you can learn new tricks from them. So like finding good training partners is just as important as finding good coaches.
No, I couldn't agree more. So for you then, going forward, what can we expect in terms of? Have we got any cosplay outfits coming up? What's the what we expecting to see in the future? Have you got this list of okay, this is what I've got to pull out of the bag at some point?
Dude, I have a bunch of them. I have a bunch of ideas, but they haven't let me do any cosplay since my Sagat one. They're like, "Oh God, no, that wasn't approved by Reebok." So I'm not sure if Venom is a little more chill. I haven't tried yet, but I was thinking about trying to do like a domino costume for one of my fights, but it never ended up happening. It was the Tisha fight, and when I was supposed to fight in December, I had this costume planned out, and then the fight got pulled because I got COVID, so I never got to do it. So I think that kind of soured me. Maybe after the pandemic's over and it stops canceling fights, I'll get back into cosplaying and try to sneak one in on Venom and see if they care. I feel like I could probably like dress up as a big snake and they and they wouldn't mind.
Oh no, I think
But yeah, we'll see.
Venom would be cool. So do you hit these Comic Cons then? I bet they don't even realize it's you half the time if you do.
Yeah, I like getting my friends together and making them dress up as characters they don't know who they are. So the last time we did it, we dressed up as Final Fantasy 7 characters. So I was Barrett and I had like the gun, the arm cannon, and then I dressed up my friends as Cloud, Tifa, and what's the other girl's name? Yuffie. So that was really fun, and we just walked around downtown, and people were like, "Oh my God, I love that game. Can I take a photo with you?" And it was really fun. We felt like the mascots at a theme park, you know. So so that was fun. And then a year before that, we dressed up as Street Fighter characters, so that was fun too. And yeah, I really love Comic Con. Like they haven't done them the last 2 years, but I think 2022 they're planning on bringing it back. So I got to think of what costumes I can make everyone dress up as.
Oh, I love Street Fighter too. So are you still? Are you? I mean, I don't know, but it's. I remember reading about you were into gaming. Are you still into gaming? Then do you like that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'm still in the gaming right now. I've just been more into like RPGs that I didn't get to play as a kid because I thought they were boring. So I went back and played Final Fantasy 7 a few years ago, and then I was like, oh, let me pick up Final Fantasy 8. So I'm playing that right now. But I'm waiting for Battlefield. It's like Battlefield 2047 or something like that. I'm waiting for that to come out because that looks sick. It's like a first person shooter, and apparently they're using all weapons. It's set in the future, but all the weapons that you can use are weapons that are in development by the military right now. So I'm like, oh, interesting. I always love the research that Battlefield does with their games, as opposed to like Call of Duty. So I might cop that when it comes out. But right now, I'm just playing like boring RPGs.
Everyone's going to be like, Stuart, you got to ask you what's a gamer tag? I wanna get online with Angela Hill. So do you have a gamer tag? Do you play online, or are you just kind of like, no, small groups for me?
Yeah, my PlayStation gamer tag is animation. So it's like animation with a G in the middle.
That's it. Now, if you ever play anything like Call of Duty, that's it. You're gonna get just shot. You're gonna get sniped. Everyone's gonna be like, "I beat Angela Hill." You know. That's
I
it.
know, right? That's why I don't like giving it out. But like, at least I think I was playing with or I was watching Max Holloway's stream once, and he's like, oh no, I was just talking to him about it, and I was like, yeah, I like playing first person shooters, but all these nerds online, they're just killing me. Like all these 8 year olds are killing me, and he's like, you should be getting killed by 8 year olds because they have all day to play video games, and you're a fighter, you're a pro fighter, so you don't have time to put it in like they do. And I'm like, you're right. I'm happy now that I'm really bad at first person shooters.
But once you retire, you're gonna be like, that's it. I'm gonna take that crown. Once you retire, that's it. You're
Yeah.
gonna be
All
like
right, kids,
gamer
let's
girl.
go.
All right. Well,
Exactly.
last question then, because I know I'm keeping you from a busy day. So I want you to use your Mystic Angie skills once more, and because this will probably come out after your fight. How do you see your fight
Okay.
going a week on Sunday? With what do you how do you think it's gonna
Oh
go?
man, I'm gonna put some positive energy out there, and I'm gonna say second round TKO.
Right. Well, I know
That's
I
what's
know
gonna
I know where
happen.
my money's going. It's going on
Yeah.
Lewis and you, and that's it. I'm betting the house. So when my children have nowhere to stay, don't blame yourself, and like, and
It'll
gain.
be Derek's fault.
Yeah, it'd be Derek's fault. Gaines done a number on him. I was like, why did I listen? But
Whoops.
Angela, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. You're an amazing individual, and I know you're so busy, and I'm so grateful for you sparing the time. And like I said, not only am I in awe of your technical ability, your striking, your fighting, but also in awe of your complete life and personality on social media. Definitely one of my favorites to always watch the videos of. Amazing. And for anyone listening or watching, definitely go and follow Angie on Instagram. She's on Facebook. Are you on everything? Are you on all social media?
I'm on Twitter too. I have a good Twitter account that doesn't get too much love, but every now and then I'll tweet something out that a lot of people laugh at. So yeah, follow me on Twitter too, especially on fight nights.
You know what? I don't get any love on Twitter. I'm just not as funny as you. Like, kind of like Twitter for me doesn't work. I haven't got those one-liners, but yeah, no, I'm sure everyone who's been listening or watching this is gonna go, that's it. Yeah. Well, they're probably already following anyway, but they're gonna. If anyone not, they're gonna be
Yeah, there you go.
clicking on. And I tell you what, I have to send you some photos and video of my place because you would geek out on it. I've like got artwork all across every wall, and I'm gonna do that after
Yeah.
this because I think out of all the people that I have on, you given what you've told me today, you would appreciate the lengths that I have gone to at my place. I'm going to send you some photos. But yeah, so
Nice. I'm excited.
good luck with the rest of the fight camp. I know you're going to smash it on your fights, and I look forward to watching it. But enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you once again, Angie.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. This is awesome. Great talk.